Hey everybody, and Tony here with my first Red Ribbon Reviewer contribution for 2016, my review of Dmitry Shostakovich's The Nose, live from the Royal Opera House, which I saw last night on YouTube. The conductor was Ingo Metzmacher, the production was done by Barry Kosky, the sets and lights were done by Klaus Grünberg, the costumes were done by Buki Schiff, the choreographer was Otto Pilcher, the concertmaster was Peter Manning, and the English translation was done by David Poutney. My experience with Shostakovich is mainly limited through his many symphonies and his most famous opera of all time, Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district, also known as Katarina Ismailova. I mostly heard The Nose in name only, and I also learned that this opera was based on the short story written back in 1836 by Nikolai Gogol of the same name. This short story was a satirical critique on Peter the Great's rank system, but it also critiqued society and class and identity. The story basically goes like this. Major Kovalov is having a shave by the barber, and as the barber is about to go home and is greeted by his wife Praskovia as she's baking the bread, she finds a nose right on the bread dough, and she completely freaks out, and so does our hapless barber. On the other side, Kovalov has found out that his nose is missing and goes on a frantic search for it, as he knows that without his nose, he doesn't really have any identity. Meanwhile, the nose is taking a sentient form on its own to the point where it becomes almost human size. And it grows and grows until it's the size of a human being. And it manages to cause some mayhem here and there and a lot of mischief along the way. The story does end on a pretty happy yet strange note, as the nose is tried for several crimes and is shrunk back to its size, and for some reason it didn't end up sticking back to its nose despite some professional help, and the story basically ends with the nose being back on Major Kovalov's face. There is just a lot of really surreal and weird moments found within the story, but the surrealism is basically meant to critique on identity and class, mostly because of the rank system made by Peter the Great. And even though I have never read the original source material, I certainly would love to give it a go. I mean, this opera may suffice, but I'd really have to go back to the original source material to really find out what really made this come alive in its own special way. And I could understand how it managed to come alive, mostly due to its use of satire and surrealism to really put the message while being subtle in terms of its execution. Now, that is quite masterful in its own unique way, and I would really love to give the original source material a go, especially at reading. Now, going into the production, it really knows how to use a lot of the weird, surreal, and totally out there moments to the best of its abilities. The characters wear a lot of weird yet colorful costumes, especially considering the fact that they have such extravagantly unusual looking noses. And we even get to see that the entire stage, while it is quite dark, it still manages to convey its dark humor and its satirical message quite well, especially considering that the nose is taking a sentient form in of itself, while the characters in this particular production are so out there with their personalities that it just meshes quite well. And it is just really fun in its own special way, and it really knows how to use a lot of elements of dark humor, satire, surrealism, and just a great mishmash of fun and just being out there, which is what I deeply appreciated about this production. So overall, what more can I say about this production? It is out there in terms of its execution and in terms of everything it had to offer, from the costumes to the dance scenes to the entire execution of the characters. My only question is, why translate this into English when it could have also been reserved for the English National Opera? Maybe because they would like to have this as a little bit of a throwback as to how certain operas were performed in English at the Royal Opera House at the time. So the English translation was absolutely hilarious considering the text that's being used. There are even some swear words being put in here and there, and it just really peppers the entire text with just how hilarious and out there it really is. So even though I do question why this opera was performed in English when it could have been reserved for the English National Opera instead of its original Russian, I still have to say that the English translation was really well done, and it really meshes well with the out there nature that this opera has to offer. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Martin Winkler as Major Kovalov. Martin Winkler has been very well known for singing a lot of the Heldenbariton and bass baritone roles. He has been very well known for singing a lot of the villainous roles like Albrecht and Klingsor, but also the fatherly figures like Graf Waldner from Richard Strauss's Arabella. And he is a superb actor. He really knows how to play with Major Kovalov's pompous yet very fun nature, and he does it in such a very fun way, and his singing was really superb all throughout. It is a fine Heldenbariton voice that he uses very well, which should be no surprise as he has interpreted roles like Albrecht, Klingsor, and even the basso role of Graf Waldner for quite some time. He is definitely a master of his craft in terms of his acting, singing, and overall interpretation. He has a very fine Heldenbariton voice that he uses very well, and he is a natural actor on stage, as he really knows how to play with Major Kovalov's brand of pompousness. Then we have the great pleasure of having the veteran basso, John Tomlinson, singing the role of the barber, the clerk, and the doctor. And he continues to have that fine, wonderful basso cantante voice, which he has been very well known for. And it seems to grow wonderfully with age, mostly because the lower register sounds fuller and richer, and he shows no signs of tiredness. It is still a very focused basso cantante instrument, which he uses very well, and his stage presence, as to be expected, is firm, handsome, and it just screams marvelousness. And what more can you say about a veteran basso like John Tomlinson, the same gentleman who has also performed such roles like Wotan, Hunding, Hagen, Gurnemanz, Fasolt, and many other roles of the basso cantante, bass baritone, and basso profondo repertoire. He is a master of his craft, and he shows no signs of tiredness, as evidenced by his very wonderful vocal performance. Rosie Aldridge was a superb Praskovia and pretzel seller. To me, she sounded like a soprano. She had a very piercing high quality to the high notes, more specifically her high C's and that D flat, which comes out really wonderful like a bell, and she has a very firm and sturdy stage presence. I was surprised to know that Miss Aldridge was actually a mezzo-soprano who also specialized in some of the mezzo-contralto roles like Auntie from Peter Grimes, and she gives a rollickingly wonderful portrayal of Praskovia and the pretzel seller, helped with that superb high mezzo voice, which she used very well, and her stage presence is just firm and commanding. Then we go to Alexander Kravets as the district inspector, and this gentleman has been very well known for singing a lot of roles in the Spieltenor repertoire, from Monostatos to the high-flying role of the astrologer from the Golden Cockerel. And he uses his high-flying, light lyric tenor voice with such abandon, and he really knows how to hit those high notes with such clarity, and even that fine mixture of falsetto and head tone, and he uses his voice very, very well, and he manages to make the role of the district inspector wonderfully over the top and wonderfully nosy and nagging, while at the same time being such a charismatic portrayer and such a charismatic performing artist. He really was an amazing singing actor, as he knew how to pepper this role with a fiery tongue and really awesome sounding high notes. Then we go to Alexander Lewis as the angry man in the church, and he also has a very superb lyric tenor voice, which he uses very well. It's light, it's ringing, it is just so full of great musicality, and he has a very handsome stage presence. Wolfgang Ablinger-Sperrhacke uses his sturdy character tenor voice to bring the role of Ivan, Kovalov's servant, to life. And he is just so fun, and he sings his high notes with such pure abandon, and he has a very fine sense of comic timing. He is a very superb singing actor, mostly due to the fact that he's also performed roles like Loge and Mime from the Ring tetralogy, and a lot of great roles from the character tenor repertoire. And he just really knew how to be such a great pro in terms of his skills as a performing artist. He not only sang the role wonderfully with such pure abandon, especially in the high register, but also knew how to act wonderfully and believably as the really hilarious servant Ivan, and he just had great comic timing. Helena Schneiderman as Madame Pelageya Podrochina was an absolute riot. She managed to use a Jersey accent when she was speaking to Kovalov as to what is going on in the current events on the newspaper, and she does it with such great abandon, and she is a very superb singing actress. She knows how to use that fine lyric dramatic mezzo voice to the best of her abilities, and she has a very fine ringing timbre. And what more can I say about her as a singing actress? She is definitely superb. She is rollickingly awesome as Madame Pelageya Podrochina, and she is just a lot of fun to watch on stage. Eilish Tynan as her daughter was also a lot of fun. I first saw this wonderful lyric soprano as Papagena from the 2003 production of Mozart's Magic Flute, starring Diana Damrau as the Queen of the Night, and I thought she did very fabulously, despite the role being quite short. I also saw her 9 years ago as Marcellina from Beethoven's Fidelio at the Royal Opera House as well. She seems to be a mainstay at the Royal Opera House, as she has also performed in a lot of the different productions that the Royal Opera House has to offer, mostly specializing in a lot of the light lyric soprano roles, but she's also traversed into singing some of the more lyric soprano roles. And I thought she did very wonderfully as the daughter. She was wonderfully saucy, wonderfully fun, and you really have to give credit to Madame Schneiderman and Madame Tynan for having such a superb chemistry as mother and daughter. She has a very fine, creamy, and lyrical voice, which she used very well, and her high notes were really well executed. She has a very gorgeous stage presence, and she managed to add a hint of daintiness in terms of the Podrochina daughter, and she really knew how to really be so hilarious in this role, and the chemistry with Madame Schneiderman as the mother is just so palpable. Susan Bickley was a firm old countess, as she was wonderfully over the top, yet still maintains that firm majesty that makes her character come alive, even though she only has one small scene. But it's a scene that she manages to portray with such pure abandon, and she was just a lot of fun, and she was just a rollickingly awesome mezzo contralto. She had a very gorgeous voice, and she was a great actress. And the ensemble singing found in the likes of Daniel Auchincloss, Paul Carey-Jones, Alistair Elliott, Alan Ewing, Hubert Francis, Sion Goronwi, Jabulo Madlala, Charbel Matar, Michael J. Scott, Nicholas Sherritt, David Shipley, Jeremy White, Simon Wilding, and Yuri Yurchuk was fabulous. So overall, the singing found in this entire opera was very top tier, with everyone from the veterans like John Tomlinson to some of the newbies like some of the members of the ensemble singers was just extremely masterful, and it was just a great collaborative effort from everyone all across the pond. And the conducting done by Maestro Ingo Metzmacher was absolutely great, as he knew how to really lead the orchestra and chorus with such a great amount of energy and just a lot of fun. So overall, Dmitry Shostakovich's The Nose live from the Royal Opera House was a rollickingly wonderful time. And for those of you who have seen this particular production, I would also love to know in the comments below, what did you think about this production of Dmitry Shostakovich's The Nose at the Royal Opera House? Did you love it? Did you feel that there were some things that could have been better? Or did you just love it all throughout regardless? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in later for a movie review. Mumsy, Nanny, Sunny, and Girly. So until then, have a great day, everybody.